Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex. Today we're taking a look at River City Girls 2 on the Nintendo Switch. The first one a bit of a modern classic in my eyes, but can this sequel continue that trend? Well, that's what I'm here to find out, so hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and let's get started. If you are picking this one up, then consider using cornershop.gg for discounted eShop credit. You'll get 10% off at checkout using code CORNER, and that's going to be instant delivery via email. Additionally, do know this game picks up immediately following the ending of the first game, so the footage it may contain some minor spoilers. I will, however, be avoiding all opening cinematics for that reason. Story then, and opening the game, we find ourselves expelled from River City High, our school. Why? Because the Yakuza they've taken over, and we're not all that liked after we arrive late to class in the opening moments. What follows though, 2 months of sitting around playing video games and basically forgetting all of the moves that we learnt on our adventure in the first game. It's kind of a fun way to address an often the case video game result. You're starting again from the very beginning. 2 months later though, and basically our mother informs us that our favourite game, it has a sequel, and it released that same day, so it's off to the mall we go. Quickly though, the Yakuza, they want us dead, and they've been taking over our town. We need to now fight and get it back. The writing, generally, it's very good, the characters are as likeable as ever, and there's such a unique world out there to uncover. But I will say, initially they lean into fourth wall breaking meta jokes, and at first that was okay, but as the experience goes on, I do feel it's a little too frequent. It's fine to open, but with the consistency, I felt like it was pulling me away from truly getting behind this narrative and buying in. Gameplay then, and honestly, if you like the first game, then you'll most likely enjoy this. It's not perhaps the massive step up that I had envisioned, but it does come with some new locations and moves alongside 2 new characters. We still of course see Misako, Kyoko, Kunio and Riki, but now we will also unlock Marian in the first couple of hours, and then Provie around the midway point of this 8 or so hour adventure. It's definitely refreshing though to have a couple of new characters. Provie has a more fluid dance-like style, while Marian, it's more a wrestling vibe. Now this is Marian of Double Dragon fame as well, and she has some particularly fun cutscenes reflecting back on her time with the boys. Much like the first game though, this is quite different for the genre in the sense we're going to be picking up missions and then proceeding to traverse this relatively large map that expands with progression. How you travel as well will be up to you. Will you brave it on foot constantly, or will you use the game's built-in fast travel thanks to the local bus stops? Both have their pros and cons because enemies here, they spawn constantly, and while it will occasionally lock you into an area to take on waves, often I would simply land a few hits and then sprint onwards with my, final goal in sight. Still, for me, the most satisfying element of River City Girls, it's got to be the huge number of stores that we can visit, whether it's health items that you can use immediately or save them to use later, or the dojo to learn new moves. These moves, they typically have requirements, and that's going to be, are you leveled up enough and do you have the needed cash? This is the core item that enemies, they do drop. I particularly like though the new moveset, and there's quite a big focus here on aerial attacks, which I definitely found I was taking advantage of. My playthrough though was spent mostly with Kyoko. Sadly, leveling up one character leaves the others mostly behind, though they do seem to have some minor gains. I wish there was a single player option that leveled all characters equally and maybe unlocked, moves progressively. That way you could experiment a little bit more. I also wish there was kind of a tag team option, where you could switch freely on the fly. All in though, great characters, and yeah, it's definitely a good excuse to dive back in and experiment with what these others have to offer. When it comes to the missions then, it's a very similar structure as I said, with a huge amount of objectives to complete, even the occasional minigame, a highlight being a Yakuza dance-off at the local arcade. The problem I have this time around, some of them do feel unnecessarily drawn out. Find cards at X amount of locations, or kittens at X amount of locations, or take photos at these locations. It leads to what felt like a greater amount of backtracking. There's still a lot of great moments as well, do not get me wrong, but it doesn't feel quite as consistent, and in the mid-game there were definitely a few moments where it felt like the pacing was just a little bit off. Fortunately though, look, you want one of the best brawler systems out there, then this is going to be the game for you. Each character controls uniquely. The 2 new characters add an additional layer of replayability, and the world itself with the minor RPG mechanics definitely still a fun one. When it does come to problems though, there's a couple of final points I do want to address. First, co-op. Local play that supports up to 4 players, great fun. Online it states only 2 players, not sure why this is the case, but given what Shredder's Revenge did recently, I can't help but be a little disappointed in that online account. Additionally, on the Switch, the game does have performance issues. First of all, boss encounters, they're an absolute highlight, some incredible moments, but sadly that is where the game for me was struggling the most. I do want to say here, I never did notice the game going below 30 frames per second, but it goes all the way from 50 down to 30, and boss encounters, they often covered that full spectrum, while on the street it typically floated more around 45. The issue I have here is it can feel like input speeds are naturally changing slightly, that lag is, created, and it's just such a dangerous place to be given the genre, especially when you factor in that this game has a parry system as well, which so often relies on that incredibly accurate inputs. Alongside this, my final complaint for gameplay, holy load screens. They're not particularly long, but every single location transition will greet you with one, and it almost forces you into maximizing fast travel while you can in-game. Due to the nature of exploration, as I said as well, you'll often run past enemies, and getting hit one after another with these load screens, it definitely started to feel a little tedious. So overall for gameplay, this is a good brawler, but it can't quite live up to the original. It's no question bringing new content, and it grows out the formula. It's just some areas they don't feel quite as fine-tuned. There's moments that feel overextended, and it could do with a patch or 2 now to stabilize the frame rate, even if they maybe locked it out at 30 for the moment, as they did work on optimization. Graphically then, it's stunning, much like the original, just incredibly well done pixel work. Characters and environments look fantastic, it takes you all over the place as well with so much variety. It really did surprise me on a few occasions. The animations reinforce this as well with incredible looking movesets, and then even spectators that do react. I was also impressed with the number of enemy types packed in. They've really delivered on that front. The absolute highlight though, cutscenes, manga styled, they looked so good, and they really play into the personalities of our leads. Audio finally, and this is the best area of the game in my opinion. The English voice team, they return, and I always thought the delivery was something special. This one, it simply reinforces it. The combat sounds heavy, and there's some particularly fun digital sounds to accompany some of the attacks you will be learning. The soundtrack though, just genius. Megan McDuffee returns to deliver this, and it's upbeat, it resonates with each location, it even often packs lyrics that had me laughing out loud. It's just this perfect balance of accomplished composition, but it understands the tension of a situation, it reinforces the locations, but over all of that it still has an understanding of these characters and their bubbly personalities. River City Girls 2 then, I've been psyched to get my hands on this, and while it's not quite the step up I had hoped, it is still a very fun game. It's got great combat, a fun cast, a unique world, some entertaining boss encounters, and a solid narrative. It's also got a few different difficulty options, one thing I was yet to mention. That said though, it's held back by missions that feel a little overextended at times, constant load screens, and some frame rate issues. I also wish we had more than that 2-player online support. Again, Shredder's Revenge, it spoiled us, and I feel like it's going to maybe play an impact on where the genre goes next. Throwing 4 players online here though, that would be incredible. I'd love to see it in a future patch, especially given the fact as well a few games out there in the genre pack such a long story. So this would be great if you could get a group together. That said though, again, still a fun game, and it's a good 7 out of 10 from me today. If they patch up the frame rate though, this would be an easy 8. So will you be picking up River City Girls 2 then? Let me know in the comments. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.